In a single explosive tweet, Donald Trump has just changed the global power equation. He has talked about return of G2, that means America and China together. So in this entire development, where does India stand and what should India do when the two major economies, global economies, decide to act as a duo and run the entire world together? Is this a beginning of new world order? Let us try to understand this in this particular video and also try to understand how this kind of geopolitical twist makes entire situation difficult for India as such. Now, first of all, if you look at the context of this entire issue, recently in a tweet, Trump has stated in all caps, as you can see from here, the G2 will be convening shortly. That means he's completely emphasizing the working together of the United States of America and China as such, which has seen a deteriorating relationship, especially after coming of Trump in power, when he began to impose humongous rate of tariff on China as such, that again we can see that China not only was able to hold it down, but also began to retaliate by imposing counter tariffs and also by shifting to other producer for the import of various products, where US was the leading exporter first. So because of this, we are seeing that Trump has, or United States and China has reached something that we can call as similar to a rapprochement, and we can see a halt of the tariff war as such. Overall, this also overall recognizes formally US-China power partnership, and somewhere it echoes a political scientist from USA Bergsten's 2005 concept when you talk about the caucus of two as such. When you talk about the caucus of two, Bergsten has highlighted that both, if you could talk about US is the major economy from the Western countries or Western world, China similarly is the gigantic economy from the Eastern world, and that is why both countries should focus on geo-economic cooperation, not geopolitics. This is the thing that we have to emphasize upon. Obviously, as far as geopolitics is concerned, because both US and China are rival countries, kind of competing countries, so political cooperation is something that we cannot expect. But at least as far as the geo-economic cooperation is concerned, both countries can work together, and this seems to be now taken as an approach by the Trump administration also. US China as joint global economic managers, that was the overall concept of Bergsten. Now, if you talk about the origin of the G2 concept, as we discussed, year 2005 is when the Fred Bergsten, the American author, he basically came up with the idea, mooted the idea, and the reason behind this was very simple. Because if you talk about in 2005, US and China were kind of, you can say, the two giant economies of the world. China was also growing at very high rate. At that time, its growth rate was somewhere about 8 to 9%. That has significantly reduced today. And it seemed that China would soon be able to, at least if not overtake, become somewhere similar or parallel to China, American economy as such. Then again, we know that 2008 entire world faced global financial crisis, that also sometimes referred as transatlantic financial crisis, because it largely was where US, Canada in the North America, and you have the European partners that suffered significantly from this particular crisis. And after 2008, we see that China came on the world stage, and by using measures such as global fiscal stimulus, it was able to protect dollar, in which it had invested significantly, and that is when it was believed by many political experts such as Henry Kissinger. The earlier, if you talk about the the Secretary of State of China, United States of America, then we have Brzezinski. Both of them mooted the idea that it is in the good interest of the global economy that we have to consider the rise of China as economic giant, economic superpower, and thus we should be able to work together with China, as there is a shrinkage of transatlantic economies as such. And thus the idea of G2 came into picture. Now, as far as the China's role in global recovery is concerned, it is something that was also accepted by the Federal Reserve Chairman of that time in the United States of America, that was Hank Paulson. So Hank Paulson stated that China played a significant role in not only helping and supporting US dollar, but also played a significant role in rescuing the world trade by stabilizing US dollar as such. And thus, without China, the crisis could have much more worse as such. Thus, it overall gave an idea that somewhere you talk about the US and China economy, they are interdependent on each other, and this interdependence has further strengthened in the aftermath of 2008 crisis, which also was triggered due to China's accelerated rise as such. Now, before understanding to what extent India should be concerned about it, I would want to bring your attention to the fact that Legacy IAS Academy, we're going to soon commence batches The regular weekday batches are going to start on 10th November and 15th December. The weekend batches are going to start on 25th October and 6th of December as such. Now, in this particular course, we ensure comprehensive coverage of GS paper, the one-to-one mentorship and doubt solving sessions, regular interaction with the educator. We also have daily mains and writing practices, and that will ensure and instill confidence in the aspirant to go and write in the mains examination. And also at the same time, we have test series so that students are able to understand their strengths and weaknesses. If you want to know more detail about this course, programs and features, you can give a call to the number being displayed here. You can also download our app or click the link in the description box of the video. Now, if you look at the evolution of US policy in China, as per the Lutwerk and Blackwell, we know that geo-economic contentment was something that began to be envisioned during the era of Barack Obama, that continued with the Joe Biden's administration, and then further during before Trump first and Trump second, we have seen the continuation of similar strategy. In Trump's first term, we have seen trade war strategy was something that was adopted by Donald Trump, and Biden, he stated that maybe you should try to delink US and Chinese economy, but many experts argued that it is no longer possible. Thus, Biden focused that if you cannot permanently or completely delink the economy of both countries, at least we should follow a de-risking policy. That means US and China should not completely depend on each other as such. Trump 2.0 or Trump 2.0 again saw what we can call as trade war fatigue, and this we have seen due to the shift. This we have seen resulting in the shift to cooperation, because earlier Trump thought that he can encourage China by putting multiple time tariff, that he can encourage China to basically kowtow to US demand and all that, but that definitely did not have happened. At the same time, US economy has suffered a decline because of the decline in the export from China as such. So due to this also, we are seeing that cooperation is kind of sentiment is being encouraged here. At the same time, if you talk about the strategy that Trump has followed of imposing tariff, both whether it is rival countries or it is friendly countries, we have seen European Union and Japan, they have to large extent aligned and they have fulfilled whatever US demand was. On the other hand, India, Brazil, China, these three countries have completely resisted as of now. The implication of G2, if we talk about it, to some extent marks the end of trade war phase, and it signals US acknowledgement of Chinese strength and resilience of Chinese economy as such. And at the same time, many experts also, and talk about Trump administration officials also stated that G2 should not be compared with G20, because G2 focuses on only two countries, very narrow focus. At the same time, G20 is a much more larger institution, a bigger institution, and this is also something that US considered vital as far as portrayal of its geo-economic interest is concerned. China, at the same time, many experts argue that if talk about the entire trade war unfolding since the early January when Trump took office of presidency, we can see that China definitely has emerged as a winner at the end or at the culmination of the trade confrontation. And again, because of the concept of G2, we might see an emergence of bipolar economic order, the West being represented by US and the East being represented by China as such. Now, as far as the impact on India's strategic space is concerned, we can take a look at the note made by Dr. S. Jayasankar, the External Affairs Minister of India. So, he has talked about the rethinking of multi-alignment, because India always have emphasized on multipolar world, and in one of his book, he has written that India should be able to engage America, manage China, cultivate Europe, and at the same time, while all these things are changing, it should be able to reassure Russia that India would not take any measures to directly that can directly impinge or threaten the economic or the political sovereignty of Russia as such. Now, it seems that in the recent month, due to the emergence of cooperation and bonhomie between US and China, now it seems to be completely inverted approach that the government of India would have to follow, where it need to manage America, because we have seen Donald Trump has completely flipped the script, and in the Trump 2.0 we have seen he has imposed not only the general tariff but also additional tariff, accusing India of buying Russian oil that was able to fuel Russian war machine against Ukraine as such. So because of this, it is something that we have taken into account, and Indian diplomacy should be able to now, or should be actually focused upon managing America and at the same time engaging China. So this seems to be completely flipped as of now as such. The strategic challenges for India also seems to be emerging, because G2 reduces India's leverage with both of the powers, that is both US and China as such, and also because of the increasing cooperation between US and China, some new cards obviously will be led to be played by the Beijing side as such. And thus, India will have to ensure there is some sort of strategic autonomy, at least on which it should not be able to compromise. And that we have seen to some extent, as India did not budge when Trump administration applied 25% additional tariff, and it kept on reiterating that India will do trade and India will buy oil from wherever it makes economic sense for its economy, from wherever it makes economic sense. Now, as far as the diplomacy is concerned, know that Asia-centric diplomacy is gaining importance, whether it is Japan, whether it is China, whether it is the Asian countries such as Hong Kong, Taiwan, or you have Singapore. So, India also will have to take that into account. It should obviously avoid kowtowing to the lines that US is trying to put in the front of India, and it should able to maintain a balance, as such. India's diplomatic priorities now should be to strengthen Asian partnership, especially with countries such as Japan, ASEAN group if we talk about, and other neighbors as such. At the same time, as you discussed, reassurance to Russia, and amid shifting global alignment, engaging with Europe, because again, talk about if not US, as far as the technology and trade diversification is concerned, European Union can provide a certain alternative if American economy seems to be closing because of the additional tariff to Indian exporter as such. Same time, India will also have to focus on getting or taking charge of regional leadership, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. And in this regard, India has rightly taken a step by portraying itself as the leader of Global South. At the same time, economic diplomacy is the key tool that has to be used here. India's economy is somewhere we can say it is at the third position now in the entire world. And again, this is something that India will have to take advantage of. In the last, we can say the new India way should be something that it should be quite different from the Trump's first term, and this should be taken into account the constant flux that we are seeing in world order. Because first of all, US, we know that it is the largest economy of the world. It is the what you can call as the military ranks. Also, it is the what you can call as it has the highest power as such, and we can say that it is a global superpower. There is no denying the fact. So India's standing in Asia to some extent will influence its global influence. At the same time, the diplomatic effort of India should be ensuring adaptability, because situations are changing at such a fast rate. India cannot rely on the policies that is framed a few years back. Its policy should be adapting to the changes, adapting to the new needs. Multi-vector diplomacy becomes essential. India cannot be focused on engaging any 1, 2, or 3 countries. Rather, it should focus on increasing its partnership, strengthening its partnership with as many countries as possible that are spread across multiple regions. Resilient solution and fresh understanding of the global geopolitics is the need of the hour, and the ultimate goal of Indian government should be to balance power, strategic autonomy, and at the same time ensure that its regional strength is not compromised. Only by enjoying regional strength in the Asia, India will be able to manage US, and in future might be able to engage it as well. That is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with fellow aspirants, as a subscribe channel for more such content. Thank you.